vaccines and therapies for everything from viruses that plague the world's children to diseases like Alzheimer's, which plague our seniors. So how much did the Ottoman Turks steal from the world with their great crime? They stole innumerable fathers, sons, mothers, daughters, friends, and loved ones from the Armenian nation. They stole the innocence of the 20th century, encouraging later dictators to follow the Ottoman model because of perceived impunity for their actions. And they stole from the world the countless contributions of so many million Armenian souls. Now, despite the somber tone of this afternoon, it's actually wonderful to be gathered here tonight, or this evening, this afternoon. It's getting late. A lot of people have gone on. It's an honor to be gathered here with so many friends of Armenian heritage. Your presence here and your continued presence is a testament to the fact that the Ottomans did not win. Every year that I have served in the legislature, and that's 3 now, I have authored the resolution to mark the tragic events of 1915 through 1923. I do it to express our society's contempt at the great crime and our sense of loss at the tragedy. And such resolutions are more than just a piece of paper. They are a statement of our values as Californians. They serve as a reminder to everyone in this state and to the people of Armenia and to the people of Artsakh of the great friendship between our two societies. And they show a strong resolve that we will come together here, now, and always to teach the new generations that intolerance of those who are different can lead to terrible results. And I close with this. It is impossible for me, it is impossible for you, it is impossible for the world to know that the perpetrators of the Armenian genocide understand these concepts until they acknowledge the wrongs. We ask our government in Washington, D.C., and we ask the government in Ankara to once and for all recognize the Armenian genocide. Only then can justice be done. Thank you.
Senator Mike Gatto, thank you very much for your thoughtful words. I'd now like to invite to the stage a member of our own community who happens to also be the first Armenian American elected to the Los Angeles City Council, Mr. Paul Krikorian.
Thank you. Your Eminences, Mr. Consul General, colleagues in public service, brothers and sisters, I am Paul Krikorian, proud son of Harpert and Erzurum, proud Armenian American, proud to serve as the first Armenian American in the history of the second largest city in America on the City Council. And in that capacity on Friday, I had a great treasured honor when I joined with my colleagues Eric Garcetti and Paul Koretz in paying tribute to 2 people, 2 elderly people. One, a man who had spent time in Auschwitz during the Holocaust. Another, a 105-year-old woman who was born in Kilis. 105-year-old Rose Garjan, who joined us as a survivor of the Armenian genocide in the chambers of the Los Angeles City Council. And Rose Garjan said something to me that I will never forget as long as I live. She said, "Why are you honoring me? What is all this about? Why are you honoring me? Where are all the other survivors?" And it struck me like a lightning bolt that this may be the last time in history when a survivor of the Holocaust and a survivor of the Armenian genocide are together in the same room, because we know that we are losing them so quickly. And that is why there's such an important urgency in the work that we do in demanding justice for the genocide, because these witnesses, these firsthand accounts are leaving us so quickly. But it's more than that. It's more than just recognizing history. It's also contending with what is going on today. Because in Kilis, where Rose Garjan came from 105 years ago, just last month there was something that happened that reminds us of the urgency of our cause. The Turkish government organized a seminar in Kilis, a seminar that every public employee was required to attend. And the purpose of the seminar was to shape public opinion against, and I quote, against the baseless Armenian genocide allegations. And attendance was required of every public employee. At that seminar, Hulya Akpinar, a Turkish teacher, stood up and asked a simple question, not a controversial question. Hulya Akpinar asked, if the strong lobbies succeed in getting the Armenian genocide recognized, does Turkey have a comprehensive policy in response? And this teacher who asked that question was promptly arrested by Turkish officials for uttering the words Armenian genocide and thereby instigating social unrest. That happened in Rose Garjan's hometown of Kilis just a month ago. And that's why it's so important that we come here every year. Not just to remember history, but to fight for truth today, to demand justice today. And that's why we grow so frustrated year after year when our own government and governments, that are allied with our government refuse to acknowledge that truth, refuse to appropriately acknowledge the Armenian genocide, refuse to recognize the truth that Judge Robertson so clearly talked about today as a matter of law. And we get frustrated and we start to lose hope as individuals, because all of us look and say, I'm just a one person, what can I do to change things? And it's true that most of us will not have an opportunity to shape history by ourselves. But Robert Kennedy reminded us that every one of us who stands up against an injustice, every one of us who stands up to improve the lot of another, every one of us who stands up for an ideal, sends out a tiny ripple of hope. And when taken together from a million different directions, those tiny ripples become a mighty torrent that can wash down even the mightiest walls of injustice, even the mightiest walls of oppression. And each of you who are here today, send out that kind of a tiny ripple of hope. So I hope that you will remember, not just today, not just on April 24th, but throughout the year, remember the power that you have as an individual and collectively as a community. And our power doesn't come from weapons, it doesn't come from our wealth, it comes from the righteousness of our cause. It comes from our persistent dedication to do what's right. It comes from our engagement in the American political system and our insistence that all of our friends who are here with us today in public service remember us not just on April 24th, but the rest of the year too. They stand up not just for genocide recognition, but they stand up for the Armenians who live in North Hollywood and Montebello and Glendale. They stand up for the interests of Hayastan and Artsakh, not just today, but throughout the year. That's where our power will come from. And if everyone who's here today, and if everyone who marched in Hollywood, and if everyone who stands in front of the Turkish consulate this afternoon shows up to vote in American elections, they will see the power that we have as a community, and they will respond to us. So I urge you to do exactly that. And if we do, and if we demonstrate the power that we have as a community, then Rose Garjan will have an answer to that question that she presented to me. If Rose Garjan were here and she asked me, where are all the survivors? I would tell her, Hosek, Hosek, every one of us who stands up here is a survivor of the genocide. Every time we march we are a survivor of the genocide. Every time we demand justice, we are a survivor of the genocide. When we vote, when we teach our children about Armenian history and culture and language and faith, then we are all survivors of the genocide. And those survivors like Rose, even when they pass away from this earth, they will not have left us behind. They will not be the last survivors. We will continue to be strong and resurgent as a community. We all are the survivors of the genocide. Thank you all very much.
At this time, I would like to invite to the stage another one of our elected officials from the City of Los Angeles, City Controller, Mrs. Wendy Rule.
Good afternoon. I will be brief, but it's from the heart. I've come here every year and listened to these incredible speeches that we've had, not only this year, but past years. The stories that have been told, not only about the sorrow, but of the hope. And what we hear today is this is about justice. It's about freedom. It's about teaching. It's about educating our young people about never again. To commemorate 98 years since the genocide is something that is important. Because every year, my son is now 9.5, and I have this conversation about what I'm going to do today, each day. And today I shared with him that I was going to this commemoration here in Montebello again. And the hardest thing to do is to describe to your children why this happened, how it could happen. How could anyone let this happen to our people, your people, our whole world? And so, as I talk to him, and we talk to our elders, and we talk to everyone who tells us our stories, we want to remember that we will never forget that the Armenian people suffered because some would not stand up and said enough is enough. We have instances today across this world, and even in this country, where people did not stand up and say enough is enough. So we have to use our voices, not only to commemorate and honor those who died, but those who are still with us, and those who will continue to tell the stories. So as elected officials, as leaders, as religious leaders, as leaders in our community, we must use our voice to say never again. We must learn from the studies that you have done and the services that you have given and told to people, tell it across the world. And last but not least, we must ensure our government on the federal level recognizes the Armenian genocide, and we will never, ever, ever give up. So I look forward to a day that we stand here with our Congress members who have been so steadfast. Congressman Adam Schiff, who is not with us today, who has stood up and said, I will introduce that every single year until we get it passed. And so together, we will never forget. God bless you, and God bless everyone.
Thank you.
I stand here humble, proud to address so many survivors of such horrific acts. As a Croatian American, my relatives endured tremendous pain, and the Armenians share somewhat of a similar history as Croatians do, except that we didn't have the genocide like you had. Yes, thank you. Because the pain that has been endured by Armenians across the world for 98 years that we commemorate today should never happen again anywhere. It's one of the darkest memories of humanity.
You know, just a few weeks ago, a couple of days ago, in fact, we had an act of terrorism on our soil. And immediately afterwards, when you turned on the television and said, what did you hear? You heard calls for justice. We're going to bring these people to justice. And slowly that is occurring here today. Well, the demand for justice for Armenians across the world has been calling for 98 years. It never serves humanity to turn a blind eye to genocide or terrorism. Never. History has proven that such denial is criminal. And if we become apathetic and allow the denial to continue, it becomes dangerous and the risk of repeat is great. Thank you. And therefore, as a Croatian American, as an American, and as a friend of the Armenian American community, we should never allow this denial to continue. What happened to innocent Armenians needs to be recognized, needs to be paid back, and needs to never happen again. Our society has a moral obligation, a compelling moral obligation, to speak plainly and clearly, as I'm doing right now, so that the wrongs for a past generation are corrected. We will never allow this genocide to be forgotten. We will never allow this genocide to be denied. We will never allow this genocide to occur again anywhere. Today, as we're gathered here, we mourn and commemorate the martyrs that innocently gave their lives from 1915 through 1923. We honor the Armenian martyrs of the genocide as we honor all genocide victims across the world. With the presence of clergy here today, not only do we call for the recognition of the genocide, but we pray for the lives that have been lost, and we pray that no more lives are lost as a result of political reasons. We're all human beings, and to take a human life in such a fashion is just uncalled for and truly a genocide. Thank you. I brought a certificate of remembrance for the 98th anniversary of the genocide. And I'm hoping that the 99th will show the recognition of the genocide by all nations. Thank you, Attorney Trutanich, and thank you very much for this beautiful proclamation. We have many more elected officials who have joined us here today, although they will not be making statements from the stage, so I would like to take a moment to recognize them. Starting with Glendale City Council member, newly elected, Mr. Zada Sinanyan. Glendale City Council member, Aga Nagaryan. Glendale City Treasurer, Mr. Rafi Manukyan. Pasadena City Council member, Jack Robinson. Sierra Madre City Council member,
Mr. John Hayrabedian. Montebello City Council Member, Mr. Jack Hajinian. Local board. The President of the Board of Education of the City of Glendale Unified School District, Ms. Naidi Nahabedian. Glendale Unified School District Board Member, Mr. Greg Krikorian. Glendale Unified School District Board Member, Dr. Armenian. Montebello Unified School District Board Member, Mr. Ben Cardenas. The Vice President of the Board of Education of Montebello Unified School District, Jerry Guzman. Monterey Park Council Member, Teresa Sebastian Real. Pico Rivera Council Member, Bob Archuleta. And the Mayor of the City of Pico Rivera, Gustavo Camacho. Thank you all for being here today. And at this time, I would like to invite the President and Chairman of the Armenian Bar Association, Mr. Garo Lazarian, to deliver an address.
Hokebor Hayrer, honored guests and dignitaries, Sireli Hay Jogoburt. Այսօր 35795 օր անց է ապրիլ 24 1915 թվականին։ Մենք տագավին այստեղ ենք, պիտի մնանք և պիտի հարատևենք։ Today is 35,795 days since April 24, 1915. Today, we protest against 98 years of denials. Today, once again, as we condemn the denialist governments of the world, from Turkey to Azerbaijan, to their friends of convenience, we say to them all, have you no shame? Have you no dignity? Have you no humanity? Today, we indict the Ottoman Empire and the Young Turks regime for perpetrating the Armenian Genocide. Today, we indict the Republic of Turkey and we charge the heirs of the Ottomans with the crime of accessory after the fact to the genocide of our people. We indict them for their continued denial and deceit, for their wicked disregard, for their unclean hands, and for their depraved hearts. We indict their call for a historical dialogue because we know the truth, and in truth, they wish only to advance the morbid campaign of disputing their genocidal policy of 1915, despite clear and convincing evidence, and despite countless testimonials which have proven time and again, beyond any doubt, the truth of the Armenian genocide. Today we do not just ask for justice. Today we define justice. Recognition, restitution, reparation, and reconnection with our ancestral homeland. Today, we Armenian Americans are free. We are free to protest or not to protest. Free to expose or not to. We choose to protest. We choose to expose the denialist Republic of Turkey and its enablers from Baku to Washington. Today, we invoke only a few of the newspaper headlines from 1915 to remind those who deny and those who would rather forget the veracity of the Armenian genocide. The Daily Chronicle of London, August 6, 1915. the Armenian horrors grow. Massacres greater than Abdul Hamid in 1896. The New York Times, August 20th, 1915. Burn 1,000 Armenians. Turks locked them in a wooden building and then applied a torch. October 14, 1915, New York Times. Report of eminent American